The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
What's up, everybody? We have a fantastic show today. We actually have a repeat guest right now because he was just that good. He was just that good.
Yes.
The
fans have spoken. The audience has said they've demanded that the Phil D is back in the house.
That's right. We got Phil D in the house from Sarah. Okay.
Sounds like a rap name, right?
Yeah. Phil D, not Sarah.
Cousin of Heavy
Sarah.
D. Yeah. Cousin of Heavy D. Sorry, I'll let you say.
Yeah, so Phil, thank you so much for coming down. Yeah, so a lot of those who maybe didn't watch that episode, or maybe they did, Phil was an undercover officer with Toronto Police. For what was it, Phil? How many years was it again?
I just started my 24th year, so 23 years from now.
23 years, okay.
Michael Jordan year.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And if you want a little taste or a glimpse of what Phil did and how he did it and the environments that he was in, you got to check that episode out.
Yes.
But today, what we're going to talk today about is a training session that Phil put our team through. Now, we have a group called the DECAs. The DECAs is the highest level of experience and skill set in the organization. Yeah, they're the group that we utilize to go out, Phil, and basically take care of a lot of our high profile environments and details. Okay, and they were chosen to be part of this experience that you put them through. Okay, what did we call that experience?
Okay, I mean,
was there a name for it?
Because when we first did it, I mean, kind of when we talked about it,
it was more
just let's put them through some hard skills.
Yeah,
hard skill training, kind of get them ready, and then because we followed up with a scenario, and the scenario was an executive protection detail where they had to take a client from point A to point B, and they didn't know what they were going to face, but they faced an attacker.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, kind of first off, I mean, just in case people don't know you, shame on you if you don't know Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, give us an idea of CERA, your program, CERA, what it is, and kind of like why you're even seated here and why you're qualified to be here. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to say expert, but I have a lot of knowledge in anything to do with plain clothes, close quarter survival, hand-to-hand, undercover work, plainclothes undercover work. From my background was working in the 1st Gun and Gang Task Force in Canada, both the street team and the surveillance, the wiretap, major surveillance. Drug squad was really cut my teeth, learning how to do real undercover work. From on the street team, from buying drugs from the legal drugs from the low half B level to the kilo level, and then as well the covert undercover officers, operations intelligence unit, where you've done stuff from murder confessions to, we don't call them Mr. Big Plays anymore, it's called major crime techniques, and they could be monthly long to year long, helping be also a certified a handler, undercover handler. So, and then I was a team leader for years. So you're responsible for a small team. I was used to basically relate it to the special forces of undercover work. So as a team of men and women, we can do anything, like we're invincible together. So we had our different skills, and then hunting people that were wanted for murder in different cities, anywhere from 4 hours from Toronto, north, east, and west, all the way down to Windsor, all the way up north, and all the way up to maybe Kingston, just before Ottawa. So they would use us as the tip of the spear, as you'd say, to find people and use our skills to. I can only, dealing with informants, sources, and keeping them safe.
So you had this whole entire.
Yeah, I was blessed to work with a lot of people, a lot of good mentors, and then I made it my own, and then I was one of the few that had a real self-defense, hand-to-hand combat background.
And then when you did all that, Phil, like I mean, now we're moving on to now you move on to like you now take those skill sets that you've acquired over all those years now and saying, I'm going to teach the young grasshoppers how to basically
the young Jedis
how to get there. So your program, Sarah, what does that specialize in?
So it stands for the Covert Elite Response Academy. So it specializes from teaching protective agents, undercover operations, operational planning, to special constables just doing regular use of force, arresting, handcuffing, to civilians. So anywhere from a civilian that just wants to learn how, we call them civilians, but a regular person, a man or female who just wants to learn self-defense, to special forces. We delivered in different countries.
And you not only teach, as you said, the regular civilians, but you teach police agencies. You basically just put it all out there for all levels of law enforcement.
SWAT teams, intelligence people, undercover officers, plainclothes officers. We just did something in association with Clean Tax Officers.
Yeah.
With Jimmy Bremner, great guy, another mentor.
Shout out to
We
Jimmy.
were training Guelph SWAT and drug squad about a month ago with helping him out.
So so this skill set, again, like we've talked about it, it's a skill set of all the things you did, informants, drug buys, stings, all these things, building intel. One of the skill sets you brought that was unique even in the undercover world was your Combat Sambo, right? Your close quarter Combat Sambo.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
which again, for those that don't know, there's a couple of branches of Sambo. This is one. Give us an idea, military grade. Why was it integral that even kind of got your UC team's attention to the point that you were training them, that your own sergeant was like, okay, look, you have a unique skill set. Again, let's be naive right now. Why in undercover work do you need to be able to handle close quarter combat? Aren't you a guy just wearing like jean jackets, just trying to like buy some drugs? You know
jean
what I mean?
jackets, depending, you could be high end.
Tom Selleck mustache.
That's why I became New York undercover back.
Yeah. How was that skill set advantageous in that environment? Okay.
So just talk about the skill set and why I was asked to. It was very humbling. So I met a couple of people who mentored me. When I was a rookie, I had a sergeant who was a commando. He lived in the jungles of Guinea. He was a Dutch Royal Commando, and he did 2 tours in the jungles of Guinea, fighting and death experiences. And then he was a French Foreign Legionnaire for 15 years, and then he was a private contractor, mercenary. He was my sergeant. And so he kind of was the reason Jan Crayfield, rest his soul, he was a legend in Toronto Police, Youth Force, and he basically got me from, nothing against MMA. I remember taking my father to number 7, I think it was 95 in Buffalo. And when I met Jan in 97, when I went on the road in Toronto, downtown, he said, you know what? There's all good martial arts are great, but people are going to try to hurt you and kill you. Come to mine. So I went to his combat jiu-jitsu. And he opened my eyes to more combatives, I guess is the term that they use now, self-defense, right? And then from there I went to, and he said the Russian system, the real deal. So in '97, I also trained. My only regret is not training with him more. I stayed with him for 3 years, and he said the Russians are the real deal. I started in '97 as well. Then I met a person named Greg Kalina, who was ex-Cold War commando. He'd be like their Delta Force. I think he's into his early to mid-70s now. He's my mentor. We actually, I named my son, my first son after him, has been the name. And he really, he's old school, and we lived together for a while. He was my roommate. And he opened my eyes, even like Jan, to what was like, what you can do. And I've had people try to kill me on the job and hurt me, had guns pointed at me and all that. And his principles that added to Jan's, so Greg's principles, just by far helped me survive.
Can you give us an idea what it is? Again, look, we can make the assumption, undercover world, you have the skill set, that's where it's come from, that's how you had access to it. How did you apply it, and why were you chosen to start teaching this to your peers?
Great question. So close quarter combat sambo. Sambo is MMA is like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's Russians. Combat sambo is like kung fu in China. Everything is combat sambo. So now MMA, Fyodor Emelianenko, all the other Khabib. So that's MMA, and then close quarter is his special survival system in the special forces in Russia. So I was able to use that and pressure test it for my whole career, right, over 20 years. And then I got in the drug squad from 2007 to 2010. And in 2008, I started helping on the undercover. So if you want to be an undercover officer in Toronto, you have to be either in the drug squad or part of this course. So I was just an actor, and then I became, and with my experience, and then you kind of be known through your colleagues, takedowns, Phil, there's a couple other people that are good in there, like Jimmy, and they're
Yeah, you earn a reputation.
You earn a reputation,
Yeah.
and you become kind of I don't expert, but you become kind of an expert and that stuff. So covert ops, I had a friend who was a detective and the staff sergeant there said, you know what, the data, especially in the States, because we mirror the States for Toronto, right? All the undercover officers that get hurt, majority is in a vehicle, buying guns, buying drugs, or buying stolen property. And they asked me, Phil, can you develop a close quarter survival system that's related to in the vehicle when an undercover is buying these things or meeting people outside or in the vehicle? And that was about 7 years ago, in 2015. So I became the lead, developed that program. And that's an awareness piece, right? It was an awareness piece to show people that you're going to survive and do a survival mindset lecture. And it's just to keep people that, hey, you're going to win. You have to have the mindset that whatever you do, you're going to win, right? And I just introduced the people to that you're going to win scenarios. One scenario we did was a gun was pointed at you in a vehicle. And then I lectured to undercovers internationally and stuff like that. And people were, from the DEA to people, Detroit. I met some Detroit undercovers, Houston. And you get a lot of, and I was very humbled that we were on the same team. And they looked at us.
Detroit undercover work, that's probably pretty difficult.
Detroit, yeah. One guy in Houston got shot with an AK-47 twice, trying to do some undercover work, and they were asking other people, Seattle DEA officers were asking me. So, your peers kind of, and you know what? There's a lot of people who have a lot of skills. I learned from Greg, and how to fine tune your skills and how to, because men have, we all have egos, and how to say, hey, that's good, but how about this situation? So we try to train people from the top 1%. Instead of training down here, we train from the top down. You have to assume that your opponent has more skill or is trained, right?
Yeah, that's what's
That's the
unique. Okay.
mindset.
Yeah, so with that said now, using that as a nice body as a foundation, let's go back to now the day that we're set up in the academy here. So we selected how many? Was it 8 people? Or
8
6?
people. I mean, going to top percentile. We chose our top percentile.
Oh,
Yeah.
they were amazing.
Yeah.
Any kind words on the group?
Oh,
that
they
came?
are very, very impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, individually, they're amazing, and collectively, I'm sure that's why they choose them to do the most important strategic jobs, right?
Okay.
I know 4 of them, just off the top of my head, have background. I know you said Albanian, Israel,
Mhm.
UK, Brazilian police,
Yeah.
and special military,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they all come with the mindset, the survival mindset. Going back, I trained at the college for 2 years. I designed the Combat Sambo close quarter combat system, so I had SWAT team, Serbian, ex-special forces, Ecuador, people come in, and I would learn from them too, how to defeat their system, survive in the system.
Yeah, because they
use
definitely
it
have a
as
survival mindset. They've
And
had
they
their
have-
whole life out of
oh,
necessity, right?
And they've done it, and they have,
Yeah.
well, I would do this. I said, okay, I'll do this, but what, we had that conversation. I said, that would work in this context, but it wouldn't work if you're solo, say, right? It
Okay,
would
so
work with a team, so
yeah.
you learn and principles. I teach principles.
Yeah.
Not
'Cause, I think we should kind of go, so on the principles, we should go kind of in our conversation. We had essentially proposed to Phil that we want to test this team. We want to take them through something because, we're really big at our company on scenarios, right? We always equate it to water.
Oh,
As good as someone could teach swimming, you can't teach it adequately unless you
Yeah.
go in the water.
Yeah.
As good as someone says they can swim, it means absolutely nothing.
So you can't do it virtually by Zoom, basically.
I've taken
Yeah.
sniper course,
Yeah.
but never
Learn how to swim
Yeah,
by
shooting a
Zoom.
rifle.
The water
sniper
gives you
rifle.
that environment gives you all the feedback necessary. And even still, someone could be a very, Olympic level swimmer
Yeah.
in the pool in a controlled environment in their lane with officials and starting gates and all. But when they go out in the ocean,
Oh.
it's a totally different thing.
Exactly.
So we kind of taking that kind of analogy, we applied it and said, Phil,
Oh.
we think you might be someone who would be suited
Oh, and I really appreciate
that,
it, yeah.
based on your skill set and your experience and body of work, to take our guys through some hard skill training and a scenario. So give us an idea. When we had asked you that,
Yes.
what were you thinking on the type of hard skill training that you would take them through and why?
So usually it doesn't matter if it's for special constables, civilians, or high-level people. So we had a conversation. I usually say, give me 3 or 4 or 5 scenarios. It's scenario-based training, right? So what are the 3 to 5 scenarios that you would come across? And then you gave the scenario. So then we put up the training depending on the scenarios. 1 person, right, bodyguard work or production work, maybe teams of 4, whether it was knife, whether it was a firearm. If you're in a close confinement and you can't get your principal away, do you have to deal with the threat, right? A lot of people don't realize 0 to 5 feet, I call it dealing with the threat. You'll never get your weapon. If it's not in your hand, you'll never get to it. So you have to deal with a threat. Things that you could do solo by yourself, you might not be able to do when, to prevent the person from getting access to your principal if you're one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all principle-based, and I always have the saying, and through my experience and talking to my mentors, no two people have ever attacked in the same way. So you can train a technique,
Hold on,
but under
you have to
stress.
say that again.
Sorry?
You have to say that one more time. No two people.
No two people have ever attacked in the same, and no two takedowns of a person with a firearm or what
Yeah.
have ever gone.
How
the same.
inconvenient.
It's similar.
So when somebody says, punch me like this, for example. Yeah.
You can't say it's not like I always say, it's not like a game show. We can say, hey, hold on, sir,
Yeah.
stop attacking me.
Right.
You call your mentor or your master and say, hey, there's not a hotline.
Yeah.
And for instance, every time I've been had a gun pulled on me doing undercover work, it's never been the same.
Mm.
I mean, the traditional stuff out there has been to your face or to your chest or your back, but it's in the pocket, it's concealed, it's this.
Okay, hold on. Are you saying that you couldn't say time out and say, listen, buddy?
I didn't learn that
I'm
technique.
used to a gun that I can
know.
see
Yes.
and well in front of me, so that I can actually distract you here and
Okay, so look, that's good to know that. So, day of right now, we did this on a Friday, I think it was, wasn't it, or Thursday?
Thanks. We do everything.
These guys come out here. What are you putting these guys through right now? Because I know they did a scenario, right? And I know, there was an element of you kind of going over some stuff with them. And also, we did this twice.
Yeah, I forgot.
right?
Yeah,
we did
actually
this
It
twice.
was about a day and a half of hard skill training
Yeah.
first.
And
Right?
I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna publicly declare, Phil came here like a champ, and he did an amazing session. And
No, I appreciate it.
one of our production guys erased the cards in accident, so we lost all that incredible footage. All we can do is talk about it now.
Remember when you called? Oh,
Yeah,
things
exactly.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a whole day's footage to, we can't prove that it happened.
Yeah.
We know in our hearts we did a
Sure
training.
that
Yeah.
that day. Okay.
But kind of
you came back a second day.
Go over into that, because I know in the first case, it's like honestly like one of those classic movies. You come in with a bag, you open it up, out comes out these plastic knives and guns and all these pieces of tools that we could use via training. Just kind of go into that of what you kind of went over, because it's going to kind of set the groundworks of what they were put through to kind of get into that scenario.
Yeah, so exactly. So we explain the principles, right, of dealing with someone with a knife. I usually say there's 3 phases of attacks. One with the person doesn't have it, they're accessing. One it's in their hand, and one it's already on, right? So we go over the principles. Why, for instance, we don't grab the gun at the start. Principles, I like to use replica guns that have the weight, right? You can use the blue guns, the red guns, but then you have to get to replica BB
We have
guns or
orange
whatever.
ones.
Which is fine, right?
Yeah.
And we do that at Cobra House. We,
Yeah.
depending on their skill set, we kind of wean them along. And because you can't put them into the actual environment sometimes, but you want to indoctrinate them to the stress level. And sometimes just being around their peers and being videotaped will put the stress up, right?
Yeah, I mean, and for us, we put really bright lights on.
Exactly,
We get the
right.
cameras out.
You don't wanna-
That's enough of a stressor.
Exactly, they don't want to make mistakes. And then, so we give them options, and then there's a lot of what if. So I always say, some instructors, I never put anyone down, but some have only learned a couple techniques. But I say, so your people were very high level, and I said, what are this? I said, as long as the question is done to that scenario, I have no problem. Hey, okay, this is what, for instance, I'll give an example. We were preventing someone from getting the knife out of their pocket, and there's an attack. And then one of your learners is great background. He said, I did two hands on one. And I said, well, you underestimated, because I have another weapon and I just sliced his throat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I said, that's worked. I said, but that will be good. You only use one hand. And I showed him to use your leverage, your body weight, so that, if you're tired, if you're a small officer, then there's principles, getting off the X, using your skills, because I would do this. Okay, then have that. Now, if you have 2 bodyguards or protection, then you can go 2-on-1. So I said, your skills are always useful, but in a certain context.
Yeah, I want to jump on that, because
Yeah.
that was a time that you kind of paused the day to make that point.
Yeah.
Because it usually, sometimes in these scenarios, everyone kind of reaches into their bag of tricks, whatever training martial arts they've
Yeah,
had,
and they have
whatever
them.
YouTube videos they watch, and it kept kind of coming out about, this is what I would do, this is what I would
Yeah.
do. And Phil basically let them know, like, look, on the street, it's unforgiving, it's punishing,
Yeah.
and then the unexpected, expect it.
We have a saying, on the
Right.
street, the loser bleeds, right? That's from my
Okay.
master.
And kind of in that specific, example that you were giving, there's some tactics that came out, and they all kind of went to 2-hand, and you really quickly said, listen, you could be affected with the 2 hands, but now, because you have 2 hands controlling one from your attacker, what happens if and we actually have some video. We do have, I think, some phone footage. I think we can even cut here where you conveniently reached for a blade on your ankle and said, "Now you're dead." Okay.
Right.
And I learned, I learned from those things, right? So I'm trying to pass off trade, and that's the thing, right? And the reason why the brain works, this is all scientific direction and doing it in real life operationally. And people grab with two hands because they think they have to control that weapon. And that's the way your brain thinks, right? You got to get out the red brain and think in, we call it the blue brain, and think under stress, right? You have that frozen state. So it's natural. So when you explain to someone, and the more you practice, the more you visualize things, then you can realize that there is knowledge out there, that you don't have to grab with two weapons. You know, there are extenuating circumstances where you might have to, but for the most part, these are the principles, right? Then you explain to people, oh, okay, I know that, right?
Okay. Now, the one thing I think that's really unique about the way you conduct your training, you have it like an open class, right? I mean, there's so many different styles. I mean, not to say one style.
It's like submersive almost.
In a way, yeah. And it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
So I think, and I say personally, I really respect that you do that, because our class, you said they did come as learners. They're incredibly gracious. They're incredibly humble. That's why we kind of chose them.
Right?
Yeah, but that's what you said. Like, hey, I'm going to learn from you today.
How to react to
why? Why do you take that approach? You know, because there is one approach that, you know, the person teaching has total command of the room. No one moves unless you say. You kind of give a real more free flow aspect to it, and it allows for people to say, well, I would do this. Okay, why do you choose to do it that way?
Just from personal training with people, you know, I've had some good instructors over the years, and some bad ones, and teaching and teaching people, you know, and present undercovers that have done a lot of work, and you know, people have limitations. So, but I like that, you know, I had and specifically there was a Navy SEAL and two of our attack guys that went to a course, survival course. It's very popular. I won't say the name, but it's good. It's good. And there was a question about dealing with someone with a knife, if it's someone with a knife attacks you. And this instructor, who was very high profile, said this is what I would do. But they said, okay, but what about this scenario? Because the Navy SEAL and the two TAC guys from Toronto SWAT team had a different, you know, this was a civilian teaching,
like
but they know what
response.
violence is,
Yes.
knocking anyone down. The instructor didn't have an answer. So they came back from, this was years ago, and they said, you know what? I paid this amount of money. I only got one answer because the instructor only didn't have a lot of experience, or didn't learn from someone that taught principles or techniques. So they came back not getting, you know, like, I've been attacked different ways, and they didn't have options, right? And they didn't have, so for instance, you know, one guy on the job was an ex-Serbian anti-terrorism black belt and all kinds of martial arts, and he attacked me from the behind. I was teaching at the college as part of our program, and he's been in real combat, and he learned from the SAS shooting, and he pulled the gun behind me, you know, just training scenario, and then he used his fingers behind my back and pressed his fingertips. And I always learn from people, and I realized that he was trained, highly trained, and he wanted to feel my movement. Nobody else usually grab you.
So he anchored to you.
He anchored with his fingertips
know,
so that he wouldn't trigger me, thinking, right, with any hard movement, it was soft movement, the soft skills, right? I initially, because of my training, thank God, I knew that he was high level, so I did it in a way that I didn't move. Then we had a debrief, which I always say.
You get it? Isn't it? Yeah. So he anchors to you to gauge your movement.
Just touch my back, where most people would anchor, most people would grab, that's an attack. He did it really subtle, had a fake gun pointed to my back.
Wow.
Pretending he was a robbing scenario, and just put his two fingers on my back, right? I instantly knew he was highly trained, and after I defeated what he was doing, and I didn't move my body, I didn't telegraph my movement.
You adjusted accordingly.
Then we had a debrief, because I wanted to learn where he had from, because I'd never been attacked that way. Someone that was at high level that did that. And then he told me it was from the Chinese Special Forces on the cross thing, the Serbian, all this stuff, and this is what he learned, and nobody's able to defeat it. None of it was 100%, but he wanted to know how I could defeat it, and I wanted to know how he attacked me that way.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm always learning from people who are trained. I'm always learning from your operators. I'm always learning from people who aren't trained, because they attack you in a way that's not.
So it's an evolved training.
You're always learning.
Yeah, which I have to say, I have a lot of respect for you that you do that, because, you know, obviously when we invite you and you come in and with your experience, you can run a tight ship, right? You can easily say, guys, line up, We all know Cobra Kai and other references.
Well, look, I think right now, Mike, you just opened up right now. You just opened up a new segment called Constantine's Daily Rant. Okay, all right. So right now, you bring immense humility into the approach. This is an industry, the law enforcement industry. I mean, we've seen every high level background. There's a lot of what's the best way to describe it, Mike? Where somebody continuously looks at you to size you up, to say, hey,
What's an appropriate
way? Because there's a slang word, but this is almost like a PG program right now. It's just this notion where everyone, it's ego. It stems from ego, right?
Ego
right?
is very fragile.
Yeah, and who are you, Phil? And what is your experience? By the way, I am ex-Marine, ex-military.
There's a lot of sizing up.
There's a lot of sizing up, okay? And again, a lot of people that I know in the industry that have done very well is because they have immense humility. An example of a guy like that is Byron Rogers. From the executive, just such an immense humility. Like he looks at everything very much from the way you're looking at it, and I have to commend you on that, Phil, because to me, when you come as a certain way of looking at someone, you actually, what you're doing is you're not doing what you just did, and that is open yourself to learn from that person.
Yes.
Because you come knowing it all, right? And not knowing that you may come from a very different walks of life. I mean, we've had people in the organization that if you looked at them, you might say, hey, maybe that's, a guy that owns a bakery shop. Not knowing that he's a lethal instrument.
Yes.
And
Never
and
underestimate anyone.
Yeah, you
So
just
where do you see that? I mean, we were talking with Elijah Shaw
Yeah.
in Vegas. I mean, Elijah Shaw has an incredible career,
Yeah.
incredible company he's built, and we talked about ego.
Yes.
And how it stunts your growth. What's your take on it? Because you see it.
Yes.
You come from the unique perspective, from a business side.
Yes.
Basically greenlighting a detail.
Yes.
Finding out what is needed.
Yeah.
Having, experts basically come together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is a pissing match.
Yes.
And sometimes it is a tug of war.
Yes.
Please rant away. I would love to
Yeah,
hear,
yeah,
because
so-
it makes it really difficult.
It does make it difficult, and it actually, to me, I find that a lot of people that are very successful in the industries, or industries in general, are ones that have a sense of humility. And look, we say the words teachable spirit, right? Being able for someone to pour into you, right? You could come in and have all the knowledge base in the world, but if you come in like you know it all, and you may know it all.
It's true.
You may very well know it all. But if you come across with that attitude, you're kind of closing opportunities for you to grow even more. You know what I mean? And become a better version of yourself. And because for me, a lot of times when I walk into a room, I hate titles. I hate titles, Phil. I mean, when someone says, what do you do? Like I went and got a massage a couple of weeks ago, and it's always conversation. Oh, so what do you do? Because they want to find out what kind of word causes your stress and whatever.
Yeah.
I go, I'm in security. Okay, I don't want to throw titles out because to me, what do they mean really? They're trying to meant to impress people. You know what I mean?
So you don't send them to your LinkedIn where you have 50 titles.
Yeah.
That you've kind of conjured up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think especially in the law enforcement industry, because you have so much people with so much different skill sets, I find if people were more open to how you are viewing this, and I know today we're not talking about specifically attitude and training, but it's also important because
But it's special then.
Yeah, the more open you are, the more you will absorb, the more you will learn. It's all like stuff that you see, like Mr. Miyagi kind of stuff where, things that you're doing that you don't understand the application of it afterwards. Oh, that's why he was teaching me this lesson, so it can open me up to be prepared for this. And that's a good way of doing things, Phil. So that's amazing that you have that element. And by the way, what you're talking about is not just words, guys. I've seen this. I've seen how you do it, how you interact. You make it so where somebody wants to actually put their foot in the water and comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in it yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a great way to put it. I mean, now again, why do you do that? Because you do it. Why? What? Have you had it blow back in your face in a previous experience? Is it just you've seen a better example?
Yeah, better example. Maybe it's probably when you're upbringing, and then when you get on the job, you get good mentors like Jan and Craig, and I had a Filipino Oliver, a nice guy who was teaching me his martial arts. He was in the Philippine SWAT team. So I remember one time I was first in the drug squad, and you do things that nobody else does. It's like on TV, and I had an ego. Only time in my job I had an ego. And I was a rookie. And then who's my buddy who was there before me, and I used to train him. He was younger in the job and wore uniform, helped train him, but he got in the drug squad and he ripped me one in front of everybody, in front of the whole team. Well, you know, I was the undercover, I did takedown, and then he sent the transport. I just remember this to this day. He says, "Can you transport?" He goes, I go, "Do you want me to do everything?" And he waited, right?
Yeah.
And then when we were debriefing and doing the computer and the both teams, and he ripped me one. And I wanted to punch him. I'm like, that was the best thing I ever had to do.
Yeah.
Took a breath and said, "Oh, that's the way I'm coming across. I never want to come across that way ever again." in my life."
Okay, so I'm going to ask you two questions right now. One, I'm actually going to set you up for this question, but to me, I think it's
We
important.
shouldn't have told him.
So the success of your career as an undercover police officer, if you did not do all this side training that the police never gave you. So, for example, police wouldn't say to you, "We're going to teach you Sambo," would they, for undercover? No.
They don't
So,
tell you you have to do it.
so if you did not seek out all that extra skill set outside of what the police teach you, would you have been as successful
No.
in your career?
Not, you know, I had my one mentor detective. He's a big unit commander now of all organized crime. After my 6 months, he told me, and there's a reason I'm telling you this. He sat me down after my probation was over in the parking lot of the drug squad. Sat me, and he says, "I have all these A-type personalities on my team, and you guys and girls choose to work together." He goes, "Phil, I'm going to put," it was one of the best compliments I've got. He goes, "You have a particular skill set." It seemed like that movie.
Like Liam Neeson.
Liam
Yeah,
Neeson. He goes,
Taken.
"But I'm going to put you in situations, one, because you're humble, two, because you know the parameters of safety. You won't go over the lines when I
Yes.
launch you.
Yeah.
And three, you have these extraordinary skills, hand-to-hand skills.
Right.
So I'm going to put you into more dangerous stuff.
Yes.
Like maybe into buildings
Yes.
or something like that. Whereas,
He let the leash a little bit
longer. So you can
Yeah.
do the undercover detail.
Yes.
But it won't be as, you won't push the envelope.
No, so you basically, because of your desire
Help, yeah.
to learn and grow, put you and gave you those opportunities. So the second question now, which is going to also be like a comment to many people listening to this: why do I need to train more than what I've been taught? Why do
More
I
than
need
what's
to?
required of
Or
me.
what is required for me, right?
Yeah.
We've brought this up in past podcasts. Why do basketball players or hockey players still got to do the basic drills, like the basic dribbling?
Fundamentals.
Yeah, the
yeah.
fundamentals. What?
Yeah.
Because it's literally what keeps you in the game and keeps you alive and keeps you moving to a path of success. So with that being said, what you pour out to people, and when we hear now, you just told us before we started that you guys train police agencies, right? They could argue individually, well, I already get my 1 year refreshers. I already get my, research every year. Why do I need to do this extra? Really comes down to like, how much more do you want to play in this game?
right.
How much more do you want to be able to protect yourself in this game?
Exactly.
How much more do you want to give yourself the level edge up to be able to get an opportunity from someone to say, "Hey man, would you like to be part of the specialized team?"
Yeah, to be truly effective.
So I think for anybody listening right now, if you're listening to saying, "What do I need more training for?" You can't stop learning. You cannot stop learning. You know what I mean? You heard it today from Phil D, who right now is saying that he still learns from people.
Yeah, all the time.
You know what I mean? And
You
that's
can
not
learn
like
what not
you're.
to do, and you can learn what to do.
No, exactly. So
Yeah.
to me, like I think
great
that
point.
that's great, and I think that's also a good opportunity for people if they're looking at saying, "Well, what would I be able to really learn if I did this?" Again, you're always learning, and the thing is, it's only through repetition
Yeah.
that you get better and better and better.
I
And
think
sometimes
I think it's great that you pointed that out,
Yeah.
because if you're listening, let that settle your ego. That
yes,
someone who is considered an expert among their peers, who trains police agencies, is this open.
right.
Okay, because so that if you have an ego, because what is the driving force behind the ego? It's to be seen.
Well, you need an ego.
It's to be.
not to interrupt.
It's,
So you need an ego to do this, to be a lead protector.
Right.
We're on the protective field.
Right.
And you said something, I've watched all your podcasts because I always learn through research, and I love your podcast.
Thank
and
you.
talk
You just got
about
yourself a
protective-
sweater. yeah.
But no,
Just pops over on.
you talked about what you said, it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And all the elite people you talk to, including yourselves, say it's a lifestyle. And that's what police, it's a lifestyle undercover. So I would, so part of the whether it's physical fitness, whether it's hand-to-hand stuff you learn, like self-defense, whether it's when I did undercover work, I remember doing a cell shot and undercover work, a homicide. I drove 2 days before I did it, another jurisdiction, helping train one of the younger officers who became one of the best in their police force. I went to the strip bar two nights before, and I did a recce on my own time. I drove across the city, And I went to that
What's
place.
a recce? Can you unbox that?
Reconnaissance.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know that I played a mid-level pimp,
Yeah.
Nova Scotian gangster, and that's my thing in the underworld. And I wanted to know who was DJing, where the DJ booth was, the old.
So it's in advance. You're
it's
doing
an
it in
advance.
advance.
And that's what we always do. We do advances, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Different language, same kind of principles. But I did it on my own time, and the real good ones, we do it on their own time. And then.
Go on, pause that for a sec.
Sorry.
Don't. Everybody just said the really good ones do their advance on their own time.
Yeah.
I think we need another just little rant.
Yeah,
Because in
yeah.
the EP world,
Yes.
of those who want to get in it,
Right.
and they learn what does it really take to do it effectively.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Joe, who teaches our guys all the time, and I mean, I hear him on a weekly basis. You know, he'll tell people, for example, you got to do an advance. You have to be there early for your advance.
100%.
When you come on your detail, you got to be minimum an hour early. And then I heard some people say things like, "Well, am I going to get paid to be there an hour early?" And again, when you start thinking at it from that end, your mindset is getting completely defeated, like off the get-go, because you're not looking at it. And this is the biggest thing that we always kind of do as a takeaway here. And again, even yesterday when we had some members from Peel talking to our people about just kind of the mindset and the shift. People don't know this industry. They think they know the industry, but they want it so badly, but they don't know what it demands from them.
Oh, yeah.
So when they find out what it demands from them, like coming sometimes on your own time to do something.
And you're nice saying an hour early. That's for a very basic within a team.
Yes.
If you're working a detail,
Yes.
you're doing your advances.
hours
a day.
and days before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, this is the thing about learning what you're gonna walk into, right? You know what I
An
mean?
example, when I switched from the drill squad, and the second time I went back to gunning main task force, I did my 2 search warrants on my own time. I was at work, I went home, made sure it was all right, looked to make sure it's ready.
So you,
Yeah.
you didn't send an invoice to the department?
Yeah.
That's what they expect. The old school, right, commanders, they expect
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I would tell my wife sometimes, we were dating at the time, I'd be in another city 4 hours away. I would call her, the target's going, and it's a big major play, and there's a whole team. I'm not gonna see you for 3 days,
Mm.
right? So I was
Yeah.
glad, that I got married later in life, but
Yeah.
I threw myself, I was always single, little kid, so when my boss, back in the pager days, he paged me, or when the cell phones came, he goes, "Phil, Dunk, can you come in early, 2-3 hours early?" Every day I was coming in early, and then I would ask one person on the team, "Okay, it's your turn. If you have kids, can you come early?" 2 of you would have to come in. "Oh, there's been a shooting downtown by this gangster, this mafia, or whatever. Can you come and show support for the major
Well,
crime?"
you took a personal sacrifice to get the job
You
done.
get paid, but it's like, I got something, like you owe it, and they don't want you to say, and you have to decide, there's people that tap out.
But you knew this kind of going into it. They would
and I
ask
thought
to
it was
let
like, I would, listen, like you said, I was just glad to be there.
Yeah.
Before, I was just part of that, I was excited. It was
Would you
exciting
say
work.
you're a born protector? What I mean by that is that something you felt in your system that this is who I am, that's what I'm meant to
Obviously,
do?
yes, even from growing up, from the way you're raised by your parents, not to be cliquey, to protect, 10 years old, you're protecting your buddies, getting
Yes.
picked on the playground. Back then, you could actually wrestle and all that. You getting picked. Oh yeah, I would always. It's funny you said that. I knew I wanted to be a police officer when I was about 11 years old. Hill Street Blues.
Wow, that's young. Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
kind of knew, right? My dad's a retired fireman, so it was. Yeah, I didn't realize it was it, but protecting. Yeah, even now training, it's part of protecting
Yeah.
yourself. Where, if we can inspire, the general population doesn't even, maybe less than 5% even practice self-defense.
Mm.
MMA, you'll see, have got it better, maybe more now
Yeah,
than
it's spread,
other
yep.
generation. But still, if you can inspire one person out of a 30-person class,
Yeah.
one or two to, and if you can't even come to me, I always say, hey, if you live too far away, I'll find you, I'll research for it, I'll find you someone that's good for you to train with. So if we inspire a couple people to practice self-defense, or even working out, to be as healthy as you can.
I just want to throw something in there. You said class. It made me think of my daughter. We got an email last night from her principal from our high school, and it was warning all the students because in the morning a student traveling to school with their mom was assaulted by a male.
Mm.
No description, nothing, and it gave this letter to all the parents of the school community was to be very careful.
Right.
Okay, to travel in pairs, do not linger. If someone comes close and you don't feel safe, run to a crowd, find a parent with a child, and these are good. I mean, I don't like hearing that news, finding that out, most of the students didn't even know that this happened, but obviously it was the police were told. And the thing that bothers me though is as great as those bullet points were, it's still not enough though.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like they does the student body really feel empowered with that information? No. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it's so important, as you said, you don't know when you commit yourself to being a protector, protecting other people, it could spark in other people.
And that's why you do so well at this, man.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why many people like you. In fact, I didn't have to get your response about was it a point, because I kind of figured it would be kind of how you're talking right now.
Right.
Yeah, mention you said no.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. So with that said, right now, we're gonna go back because I want people have seen a video called "Protect the Protector,"
Right.
where basically they were interrogated through a discovery by Steve Somerville, and it was designed to feel pressure
Very effective.
based on action. Okay,
Yes.
so right now we can summarize that we had these group of 8 that came in and you poured into them, and now it's time, the day of right now, for them to go into a scenario that was created, and you oversaw the whole thing for those that watched the video, and we're going to release more footage. But Phil, you were like a coach. You were there looking at everything.
Everyone did well.
Yeah. So training, scenario-based training to get ready for the real thing. What were things that you saw there that day that you feel, or that were done that day, that is very important to kind of get yourself ready for the real thing? Like this was kind of like an element for them where they just went through a drill, right? But for someone that is looking at kind of going down that road and what you put them through, how important is that so they can be in game shape?
And I'll just say really quickly, what we put them through was a scenario.
Right.
And each agent had to take their principal, which is their VIP, and take it from point A to point B, not knowing anything.
Right.
They had the instruction, you need to get your principal from point A to point B. We had about 100-foot hallway that we walked them through. Phil kind of designed the whole thing. So that's what we put them through.
Yeah, so the first part is the physical skills, right? Not knowing, the element of surprise and being watched, cameras and your members of your team, right? And then just being organically letting happen, see what their reaction is, right? And there's no bad reaction, and it's an adult learning concept. So my mindset, and I know yours was that, like, just let it happen, and not everyone's going to happen. Some have better skills than others. One person was a grappler, and he went to ground. But basically, he did a lot of good stuff, but he forgot to look at his principal. But he went back to his train. Great guy, right? But what I really liked was the debrief. The learning is in the debrief, and this is where I don't like to call it mistakes. And we talked about it when we're debriefing. The learning is when we're as a team and we're debriefing, and you're visualizing what would I do in that situation. So you're the person that's involved in it, and you know you're going to be next, or you might not. Something can happen. And then the people that have already done it, you would have them standing on top and see, and that's another learning concept.
The observation.
They get to observe after they've done it first how a few people do, and then it's being able to gain criticism, to be able to take that constructive criticism, and that's where real learning happens: reflection and visualizing. Okay, you know what? Okay, so buying into the training, buying into that everyone has different skill sets, buying into the debrief, which is the learning point. When we discuss what was good, what was bad, we all had a part of the debrief, and then being able to accept that, and that's the big thing, that information will squash your ego, so it's healthy. And then, which they don't do, and a lot of police officers don't these days, they've never testified under stress. They've never had to articulate why they use some type of force, right? And that's what Somerville, and that's what we suggested serving them the night before, because,
And by serving them, we served them a subpoena.
Yeah.
To get that kind of stress, that might be talked about stress the night before.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people,
Yeah, that was actually Phil's idea. Phil said,
Yeah.
send them the subpoena.
and this is from learning
the night
experience,
before.
right?
Yeah.
The night before.
We call it the box,
'cause
being in the box. and
we were
testifying.
gonna surprise them on the day when they showed up. Oh, hey, by the way, you're gonna go into the discovery.
But that's realistic,
Phil's like,
right?
no,
Yes.
let
Yeah.
them have a bad
Because
sleep.
when you're testifying, you want to make it as real as possible. We
That's
might
right,
know
absolutely.
months before, but then and then the other thing is, it's a good thing that your people and most don't have to testify. But when you
Yes.
come there, you want to have some experience, and these are kind of scenarios that they learn. And then they probably got their whole world waking up to, right?
Oh, yeah.
Military people don't testify unless they're investigative unit. A lot of police don't testify like we did a lot. A lot of people are playing a lot of stuff, so they don't have any real life stress to testify under stressful conditions and articulate. Because most people, 99% of the people out there are valid in what their use of force. This is how they articulate it. They don't know how to explain themselves properly. And that's what Somerville, an expert, brought out, right? Under stress. And you get caught up, and it's not their fault, and then you're under stress, and then you get a trained, experienced lawyer that's there and has done this for a living, trained, decade, and knows what the, you know, they're like sharks and they just come at you.
And I'll tell you this
that's
right
their
now,
job. Right?
100%. For everyone listening, the experience that our people went through around this, the feedback that we got back was,
good.
wow. They never ever anticipated this to go the way it did,
Yeah.
right? Because in their mind, they were trying to plan, this is how it's going to go. It's going to go
not
like
gonna be
this.
that bad, or I got the answers.
100%. And then some people were even like looking at others that went through it, trying to be like, what did you do? Okay, great. I know what I'm going to avoid. But again, as you said, no two situations are the same.
Yes.
So when they were put through it, messed up. So look, anyone that's listening right now, we're going to be putting quite a bit of footage that we have documented that I think is important to people to actually see this. Sarah, how do people find you?
Well, we have a website. They can call
Can you spell that just so everyone can...
It's Covert Elite Response Academy.
.com?
CRA,
Sarah.com?
Yeah, covertelite.com.
Yeah.
www.covertelite.com.
Okay, we'll put it up. So
We're going to be revamping the website, and they can call you, whatever like that. It's any type
100%.
any type of training, like I said, anything to do with survival mindset, operational, testifying, hand-to-hand, self-defense.
Absolutely. So
And if I don't have the answer, I
Yeah.
can put you in, like if that's not my specialty, I'll put you to someone that
look
has
at this
the answer,
humility,
right?
guys. Look at this humility
And
coming
we have a
from
new
Right?
course. We
Yeah.
have a new course, humility.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how to get you ahead.
Yeah.
It took a
Okay, amazing. So Sarah.com. Anybody else maybe wants to try to go through Sentinel to kind of get into Phil, we can 100% do that. SentinelSecurityPlus.com.
Appreciate you.
However, what we're going to do right now as a special sub-segment that not even Mike knows that or Phil knows for that matter, is that we're going to clean this table out here right now. And Phil, what I think would be a good opportunity,
Sure.
maybe if there's something at the top, we can do maybe a demonstration utilizing Mike as the subject, maybe, okay?
Sure.
And maybe we do
Right,
like one or two elements that I think would be important for people to see and visualize. Here's what you can do for something like this in case this happens. And maybe if you want to, off camera, pick two scenarios, or maybe a knife attack, or how someone could approach it, and we can just do something as an actual demonstration to give some people a real life sample what it could look like. How does that
Sure.
sound?
No, it sounds good.
Okay, that's amazing.
Okay.
Sounds like fun. We're gonna move the coffee table.
Yeah.
Okay, before we do that, you said the word principles.
Principles, yes.
Bruce Lee talks about it's better to understand the concept versus the technique.
Yes.
Concept is
Sure.
equated to like a principle. What does that mean? Give the audience an idea of what is a principle and why a principle is more advantageous to grasp versus just a technique.
I'll give you a real life example. So I had a partner. We infiltrated a bar. Some Eastern European gangsters were holding. First night went really well. 4 or 5 hours talking to the person. He thought I was a gangster, blah blah blah, because we had information. He had a firearm, and they wanted eyes on him. So I went in. I took my partner. Was a gun gang task force. The only other person who did some undercover work. He's a great guy. Second night, we went in a couple nights later, and they had pushed out. There was about 100 bullet holes in the VIP room, and they pushed out some other organized crime. So they were enforcement level, right? Second night, we went in there a couple nights later. Everything was good. Then our backup came, and this is the difference between undercover work and plainclothes. They were great plainclothes, but they never did in the ghost squad. One of them indicated they were at the bar. They were buying drinks. And the guy's girlfriend, who was the bartender, saw them touch the firearm with their elbow. He indicated. Because it takes it takes high-level training for you bad guys not to touch their weapon under stress, and police or plainclothes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what happened.
And by touch, they feel
felt it. They went like this. But these people are trained. Like these targets are trained, right? They live this life all the time, 100%. They were doing it part-time, right? So they saw this. They thought they were bad guys first because they were trained or plainclothes, but then they realized from other techniques that maybe they were police or whatever. So the girlfriend went over, whispered to my guy, and then he just left him up behind the DJ booth. And the characteristic around person, I believe that and the partner that he had a weapon, and he was pointing at it, and I was going to get in a gun battle about 20 feet away. Now here's the reason I'm telling the story is principle. Never do you probably train. If you did, you'd be highly... I want to thank you that you had a master who taught you this. But very people train on how do you deal with a threat that's 20 feet away that you can't physically grab someone. The principle is I have to control his brain. I have to control that target's brain. How do I stop him from wanting to get into a gun battle when you're responsible for every round, when there's 20 other people in the bar, and someone innocent could get hit, you know, so and you have to think under stress. I have my firearm, and I can't indicate under stress because he's looking, him and his partner looking, they're hiding behind the DJ booth and have a weapon, right? And they were doing cocaine at night or they're high, and this is the underworld, right?
Mm.
I never trained this. Can't again. I don't have a lifeline. I can't say, sir, stop. I can't call my master. My
Yeah,
grandmaster.
you didn't read a technique.
There's no technique.
In a crowd, on low
That I've
lighting,
learned, right?
in a DJ booth, when you're
Exactly.
20 feet away, this
Yeah.
is what you do.
So I thought under stress, okay, the principle is, my master Greg always says, the principle controlling the brain. You got to control the brain, not necessarily the finger that shoots
Mm.
it. So how do I do that? I said, okay, you know, it's self-talk and you're thinking under stress and things slow down. Okay, I got to get him to stop thinking about what he's doing, to take his mindset off shooting me and getting a gun barrel. So I yelled at him at the top of my lungs, so that I created all these witnesses. So
Yeah.
everyone started looking at me, and I pointed at him and I said, I said some explicit, get over here or whatever. And I wanted to have all the attention on him and his partner, so he had to decide, do I want to get in a gun battle with all these people watching me?
Yeah.
That was the only.
You spotlit him with
Yeah.
the attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the only chance I had.
Yeah.
The grace of God, it worked.
Yeah.
He had too much attention. I told him, get over here. I said, get over here. I want to show you something, right? That we were talking about. In other words, I'll get over here. Partner went outside. My team ended up arresting him. I called the play and phone, blah, blah, you're multitasking. I got him to come over here. The second team came in and arrested him. The gun was where it was, 7 rounds in it, and about 50 loose rounds and some drugs. And it was right exactly
Yeah.
what I thought it was because of his body language.
Right.
Arm characteristics, right? And that's a prime example, an operational example in the real world, doing this type of work, of how you've never been in that situation. You got to think under stress, and how do I control the brain? The principle of controlling and interrupting that OODA loop, right?
Well, these are things that, again.
And then you go home and go, whoosh.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
possible,
No,
right? Because you're all human, right?
Look,
You
these
don't
are
sleep all
the
night.
things that are important. Again, that's why I emphasized earlier the having the mindset to grow and adapt. And again, there's so many different situations, so many different circumstances. You got to put yourself in that frame of mind. You know what I mean? Phil, I want to really thank you, man, for coming down today. Again, this man comes battling through the weather, to come down
Oh, I
here.
know.
Anytime.
And let's right now clear the set a bit, and let's do some actual demonstrations. How's that sound?
Sounds amazing.
Phil, thanks very much, man. I really appreciate all the time you come down, buddy.
Thank you very
Good.
much.
Let's
Awesome.
do this.
All right.
All right.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.
All right.
Well, let's just say straight. Person has it with a firearm, you're within reach. This is a traditional tactic. A lot of people, and the difference between what we do is, again, we want to control the mind, because your finger, you're trained mostly, but bad guys and women won't have the finger on the trigger, right? I have a chance because if you were gonna shoot me, you would have shot me. So this is a robbing scenario, something you want something from me, right? So I have time. Difference that we teach compared, there's a few people out there that have the same similar principles. They just execute. Again, this is special forces stuff. Is that we don't want to grab the gun at the start. Why we do that? If you take it away and you just put your hands up, and I grab your wrist, that is an attack, and that elicits a response. But if I do something like this, then I have a chance, right? You're thinking, oh, you're still winning, when really you've lost, right? So same kind of concept. So we do grab the gun in this arm, and we also get off the line. So what we have to do is we just have to get off the line in trajectory first. And if you start thinking under stress that you can survive, you're going to survive this. Most people think they have to control the weapon right away. I'm not knocking in the system. Anything can work, but again, we want to assume that you're at high-level training. You're an operator, or you have some type of training, or you're just you could be an athlete with some great hand-eye coordination, great skills. And I want to get off the X, okay? My primary responsibility is not grabbing it right away, not pushing it away. If you push away a weapon, any distance between you and your opponent works for your opponent. I want it as close as my body as I can, and I want to get off the line. Therefore, I want to get to a position right here. This is as close as I want it, as close as I can. And when I trap it, I'm past the nozzle, I'm past the weapon, I'm close to it, and there's less distance between me and my opponent, and I'm going to do body weight. So how do I get there? What do you want, sir? That's how quick it is. You also do it when the person is listening or talking. If there's nothing, then they're concentrating. So what do you want, sir? Look where my hands are. This is the interview stance. We teach police officers, protection people. This is our stance. We don't have a traditional fighting stance. Why do you think that I don't want a fighting stance? Why do you think I don't want to be you will look at it, but what I will be focused, I want to look through you. I can see this perfectly. You're going to look at it. Every time I rob by gunpoint, it's the old crap factor. But then you want to look through the person, right? There's multiple points. So now I know it's there. So now I look where my hands are. Some people naturally would do this. It's too far away. If you're going to do that, I want it close in my toolbox. I want it right here. The least amount of movement that I present to you, the better. This is wasted movement. If I have to do something up here and then come back down, you're going to see it because it's peripheral. It's a lot of information, exactly, right? So I want to make you think you're winning. So I'm within the breach. If a lot of times I talked my way out of it, but for some reason, and only you can decide, you want to actually try disarm. So we got to that point. You're mentally and you're going to do 100%. So now if you're, say my hands are this way, sir, what do you want?
Want your money.
Boom. I'm right there. Guess what? The shot may or may not have went off. If it went off, and then you gotta remember that there's gases that are coming out, right? So I'm looking at it, but I'm looking past you, right? Now, by doing this, if you're trained, and if you're not trained, again, this is not a grab, because if I grabbed you at the beginning, I'm gonna grab you, and you react whatever way you want. Sir, what do you want? Exactly, because you're trained, and maybe you see some YouTube stuff, or I just elicit a response. I've woken up your brain. That's an attack, and now you're gonna react as an action, it's a reaction. But when I do this, or in this case I was here, and you said, what do you want? And you looked at my wallet, so
Yeah,
do it.
the money.
Oh, that's where I am. My hands are there. The shot may or may not go off. By not grabbing it, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So what does that make you think? You're still in control, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I can't gauge you.
Yeah. So now a trained person, an untrained person, will do this. And his brain or her brain will initially, because I haven't grabbed it and caused that reaction, you still think, you still want to do your plan. You still want to point this. So you want to move it towards me. So you'll move it towards me. And a trained person might come back and tuck it in.
Yeah.
So I can't stay here forever, but I have a split second. So I know you're coming in. And I'm going to use that movement. My hand's going to come up. I'm going to indicate the shoulder. You start moving it back. And that's when I grab and disarm. Now look at how I got you off balance. You're stronger than me. You work out more than me. But I was able to use my body weight and my leverage because everything was tight and I was moving this thumb to my shoulder and moving my body weight. So we'll go slow again. Sir, what do you want?
Stop looking at my girl.
First, the shot goes off. It comes in. You start pulling it back. I use my body weight. It's right to my shoulder, and then you can do whatever tools you have in the toolbox. So in full speed, it's like this. Sir, what do you want? Okay, you can go. Now you try to shoot. You say the word bang. When you detect any movement, you say bang. Sir, what do you want?
I want your money. Bang!
Exactly. Advanced stuff is, sir, what do you want? I just say, okay, sweet. Boom, I've made your move. Okay? Then I can come up here. There's all kinds of variations. Now, if I'm looking at the firearm, I won't see your eyes come here. This is advanced stuff, where I just put my hand up here. So, sir, what do you want? You want my money? It's right here. It's right here. You didn't see this hand go up. It's right in position. And then I can come in, do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, at full speed, it would be, sir, what do you want?
I want your money.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
That's how quick it is, right?
Yeah.
Now, very few people, less than 1% of the instructors out there are teaching this or know this. If this is a revolver, you can't touch a revolver. We talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the gas is, there was a gentleman, he's rest in peace, he was from Alaska. It was, pull him out there, split-second survival, and I actually called him. I said, you're one of the few people, this was like 10, 15 years ago, you're one of the few people that has the same principle as us. Since then, another Israeli gentleman, a Navy SEAL, he passed away too, but they said, we don't grab the gun. This is a moving slide, but we'll go back to the revolver. It might be, I have some people who attack people, gun people, and they say, what if it's really short, a 22?
Yeah.
So under stress, most people, I would say the majority of people can't say, okay, you know what? It's a revolver, I can't touch it. Or it's a 22, I'm not going to go for it. Or it's a regular Glock, what 27, whatever. Okay, now I can grab it. You'll never be able to do that under stress. So we want to dumb down the principles that work, so we never grab the gun at the beginning. So, and you cannot grab a revolver. He went into Alaska, and I've done it in the fire range myself, and with a glove, and it almost blew his finger off. And what that was is, and the gases, and it's from a revolver. So again, that's knowledge that is not being put out there. And there's a whole lot of great people, but they don't have the knowledge, and they're not teaching the people true survival. So, and what it did was, when he grabbed, in the scenario in Alaska, with his trainers, he's a high-level martial artist and NRA fire instructor and everything, he flinched. And what happens when you grab a revolver and your hands on it, and you flinch? Guess what? You're still in the line of fire, right? And then if the person does something, so that's why the first thing is, I don't like the stuff that, and it's out there and it can work, but I don't like to do anything where I'm still in the line of fire, because we talked about ego before. I must have a real big ego if I think that I'm better than you. I'm going to be able to move my hands in your field of vision. You're not going to move yet, and I'm going to stop the slide from, and I'm not knocking anyone. I am not going to assume that I'm going to be able to be faster than you, because why? Because the jeopardy is, if this was a sport fight, what's the jeopardy? Maybe you might lose, you might get choked out, but this is your life on the line. So I would never teach anything that says stay in the line of fire, trying to trap, because there's a slide, like the Navy SEAL said, it's a slide. Most people that aren't trained, they might nick them, the sides, and they might flinch. Are you fast enough to stop? The bullet that we've done training, the bullet does go off, even if you stop it, you have to touch at the right time, it will still do one round and won't cycle up. Again, I won't do anything because I could assume, what if I'm not faster than you? At this point, you've got a round off, right? I don't want to assume anything. So I always teach people, get that brain in there, visualize, get off the line, right? Get off the line. And it's a surprise. And again, while they're talking to someone or they're listening. So again, concept of I'll just move. What do you want, sir?
I want your money.
Boom, that's it. Okay? Because you're not thinking, you're talking, you've got concentration again. Or while I'm talking. What if I missed it? And they say, oh, Phil, you know what? I missed the opportunity, I'm under stress. And I talk and you start saying, what do you want, sir?
I want your money.
Okay, I don't want any problems, okay?
Right.
Now you're listening. I don't want any problems. And then while I'm talking, again, it takes practice, but that's controlling the brain. You either got to be talking or listening. And it's high level stuff, okay? Now, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, I do deal with people that train in a system for 20, 30 years, and they're going to react that way. There's popular systems where it's pushed out, there's different variations, and I say, okay, you know what, if I do that to a high level person, what does that do? You react.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to react, what do you want? Exactly. So now, guess where I am? You hit me back, I'm still in the line of fire. What if some people do this when I do it? Some people put it close to their body and trap my hand and then strip it, strip the gun, and then I'm still in the line of fire because I grabbed it. So I teach people, I say, you know what? If that's what you're going to do, I'll make your system better. So I said, if you're going to grab it, do this. At least you have access to it. I don't want you to grab it, but I'll teach you to make your system more efficient, right? So again, depending on the learner, if they're open-minded, depending on what they do, and it's okay. Now you dictate, and this is where you have to practice and visualize it. Now, I might want to go on the outside, which is the ideal thing, but what if you're lasered me and I'm more on the inside? So you're going to dictate where I go.
Like this.
Like this. Yeah. So now I can go on the outside, but maybe you got it. So is it fair to say that I'm not going to waste movement and try to move the majority of my body this way, or am I going to come on the inside?
Mm-hmm.
So that will dictate what you will do, right? So for some reason, if it's in the middle or here, I'm going to go the outside, which I want. So again, if I feel, okay, I'm going to go on the inside, or you might be against the wall, right? Maybe we're on the wall,
or you
and I
just
have to go
like
inside.
discreet.
Again, so, and then there's other kind of stuff. I'm going to hit you right here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can come up. What do you want, sir? Right? That's your throat coming in, whatever. If you're on the outside, eyes, throat, but I don't want to push you away. I don't like when I see stuff where, I don't want to kick you away. I don't want to punch you, because if you punch a person in the eyes, they'll naturally go back, right? So I don't want to do stuff like this, and I'm not knocking anyone, because again, why? Because you'll regroup. Now you know I have training, and now this is close quarter stuff for a reason, right? Now, you might be in a situation where you feel you want to push the person away, and that's a situation where that might work, right? But to assume that you're going to be faster, just for me, the way I teach, I want to be close. If I made the decision where I want to assign me, I want to be, this could be Nelly, I want to be in a curve, I want to be as close as you as possible. Now, if you're with a team of people, and and someone's just like the drop on you, then you can do stuff you might be able to get, but that's a highly trained team. Okay, then you might be able to create distance with your partner, right? There's a lead tack for units or whatever. It depends on the scenario, right? But for most people, you're going to have to be close, and you have to design the person. Make sense? So again, now if you're up here, again, put your hands up. You have to say, it's not like this. You have to do it while you're on the way up. You don't want to waste movement. Because what happens if I do this? And then you're looking, any quick movement, right? So I put it here, so my toolbox, what do you want? That's from here, right? Again. But again, just this movement. We teach people, right? This movement. And past. We teach people, look at this. This movement. So that's the movement. What is this movement? We're going to get outside. And then there's the eyes, throat, and the groin. We can disable. Make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions? So trust me, a lot of people said, I had a guy from, and I learned from him. And he says, I don't think it will work. So I was training him. He's a buddy. He was from ex-GROM. He was in Poland. Ground Special Forces, it's the acronym. And he's a great guy. He's retired. He has a diving company and a sniper school. And he teaches all the young Special Forces. He said, I don't think, and so when we were doing we were playing around, and he was doing this, right? The replica. And I just winked at my other friend, who's a tactical guy and karate champion, full contact. And he says, go ahead. Because some people have to feel it. So that's what I did. I went in here, hit him in the throat, groin, throat twice, and in the ground. And I disarmed him. So now, to get the bind, right? You don't want to hurt people, but some people have to get, especially from, a lot of Polish and Eastern Europeans are hardcore. And I think one of your students actually kind of was hard a little bit because they want to feel it. You don't want to hurt people, but some people have to, if they give you the okay, and they want to feel a little bit of 20-25%, you give it to them, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, oh, that wouldn't happen. You can't just, oh yeah? When you can't breathe, you can't see, and you hit a gentleman in the groin, right? And it's how you control the body. Makes sense?
Yeah.
What the ground guy said was very interesting, is his two hands. You know what? We won't show that.
Okay.
That's a little nice.
Yeah.
But it was the only person that talking about our previous conversation. It was the only person to ask me. He goes, most people don't have the answer for two hands. In the Special Forces, we're against it, right? So we have to have the answer for that. And it dealt with body weight, leverage, not strength, right? And he was pleasantly surprised, and we traded. This is what we do. He's a judo guy, can't sweep you and all that stuff. So I learned just as much as he did, but I showed him some effective techniques. He brought it back to Poland. Came a couple times, and now he hasn't been able to come back COVID, but.
Okay, want to try a knife now?
Nice.
Yeah. We probably don't have much recording time.
Sorry.
No,
Knife.
Which one?
Here's one that you've seen on the.
Yeah.
So there's, again, I call it three levels of attack, 3 ranges of attack. The knife will put where one's coming out, and this is straight stab.
Yeah.
I don't like to see, again, anything can work. I don't like to see the X's. I don't like anything that puts your body in the line. I equate it to Mike Tyson in his prime. If you were put in the ring with Mike Tyson, would you stand in front of his punch? Or do people try to get off the way?
Yeah.
And most people will try to get off the way. In parry, boxers, professional boxers, any strong puncher in any weight class. And that's the same analogy I make. When I try to stop this, right? I have to assume. You try to stop that. We'll go slow. You try to do the X or stop this. Simple. Person who's trained, right? Or there's other stuff, you try to stop the X. I use my body weight. I'm trained to defeat these systems. And that's why I talk about learning, tell people, can it work? Yes. I had a kickboxing partner that kicked a syringe, an 8 syringe guy was gonna hurt himself, like Claude Van Damme. It was amazing, but how many times out of 10 will it happen? So we want to increase your probability to survive, and I have to assume you have, and that's what will happen in the Filipino community. You grab anything, right? You grab, they're gonna cut. They're gonna cut, right? You grab, they're gonna cut. You do it the X, like I said, right? You use two hands, and I set you up. I can set you up, that's more of a sauce. We're not teaching this. That's more,
Do the knee slower, because that was fast.
so you probably never,
Yeah,
right? So you go like this, and I use my knee, my body weight, because you assume, so let's take this position. If my intention, there's different types of strikes. There's the jab, there's the Hail Mary, and then there's the sewing machine. Three, basically, but there's other variants, but that's it. You will never know what strike it is. You don't know if it's that X could work against this. Do the X, the stab, but what if it's going through? Or what if it's like in the jails, right? In the penitentiaries. So again, we want to make you succeed. We want you to get off the line. And again, going back to that knee, is I just put you in, and then I get you, right? Because that position is you're fighting, you're using just your tricep, and you're a strong guy, you work it out. But you're only using these muscles, your shoulders and triceps, against my whole body momentum. You're not gonna win. Because you're overconfident. Because you've learned a technique that says that anything can happen, but that will be the technique you use all the time. No. Again, I'm assuming that you have more strength than me and you have skill. So I'm going to teach you to get off the line, and I'm going to teach you not to. A lot of systems, I'm not knocking. They try to. So you see this do a straight stab. They try, or before that, they try to do stuff. What if you move too soon? What if you try to get off the line and you try to meet this on the way there?
Yeah.
And I'll just go up high.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.